In the realm of modern warfare, cluster munitions have once again come under scrutiny, with recent events involving the United States' decision to supply Ukraine with these controversial weapons. Responding to Ukraine's request for assistance, the Biden administration has agreed to send thousands of cluster bombs as part of a new $800 million military aid package aimed at bolstering the Ukrainian military's efforts to repel Russian forces entrenched along the front lines. The decision has been criticized by human rights groups since cluster bombs are banned by more than 100 countries. So, what are cluster munitions? Why are they banned in so many countries, and will they be a game changer for the Ukrainian counteroffensive? Keep watching to find out. Cluster munitions are conventional weapons that are designed to break apart in the air and release multiple explosive submunitions across a wide area. In essence, cluster munitions are composed of a dispenser containing submunitions that are equipped with tail fins or streamers to ensure proper orientation upon deployment. The dispenser releases these submunitions above the target, allowing them to spread out as they descend. Upon reaching the ground, the submunitions explode, creating a wide-reaching impact over a football field or city block-size area. The most common alternative to a cluster bomb is a unitary warhead, which delivers a single powerful explosion focused on a smaller target area. For instance, a multiple-launch rocket system rocket can carry either 518 bomblets or a single 90-kilogram warhead. The standard U.S. submunition used in cluster munitions is referred to as dual-purpose improved conventional munition. It earns its dual-purpose name due to its effects on both vehicles and personnel. The most recent variant, the M77, boasts a combination of a penetrating charge for vehicle targeting and a fragmentation element for attacking personnel. Cluster munitions come in various forms, such as artillery shells, rockets, and air-delivered munitions, and the US has produced all three. Throughout the Cold War and into the 1990s, cluster munitions were the conventional ammunition of choice for the US, and today, hundreds of thousands of artillery shells from this era remain in existence. Now that we have a better grasp of what cluster munitions are, let's explore some of the reasons why they are considered controversial. Cluster bombs tend to have high dud rates, meaning that a significant number of their submunitions fail to detonate upon impact. Russian cluster munitions reportedly have a dud rate of 40%, while the average dud rate is believed to be close to 20%. The Pentagon estimates its own cluster bomblets to have a dud rate of less than 3%. These unexploded submunitions essentially become landmines. They have the potential to detonate at a later time, causing fatalities when handled or stepped on. In military scenarios, this is highly effective against entrenched ground troops, such as those in trenches or fortified positions, making vast areas hazardous and necessitating careful clearance procedures. But historical data from conflicts between 1960 and 2021 reveals that 94% of all cluster bomb casualties were civilians and not soldiers. As a response to these concerns, the international community established the Convention on Cluster Munitions in 2008. Over 100 countries, including the UK, France, and Germany, have become signatories to this treaty, which prohibits the use, development, production, acquisition, stockpiling, or transfer of cluster munitions. Human rights organizations have strongly condemned cluster munitions, labeling them as abhorrent and potentially constituting a war crime. Russia, Ukraine, and the United States have not signed the Convention on Cluster Munitions. The US chose not to sign to ensure the retention of the right to utilize cluster munitions in combat emergencies. However, despite not being a signatory, the US ceased cluster munition production in 2008 and transitioned to producing only unitary warheads since then. Over time, the US has been gradually converting its munition inventories to comply with convention standards. For instance, it has replaced cluster munition warheads on many MLRS rockets with unitary warheads suitable for training purposes. In its efforts to address safety concerns, the Pentagon also attempted to develop submunitions with dud rates under 1%. Nonetheless, technical limitations made this unachievable. Prior to ceasing production in 2008, the Department of Defense managed to produce submunitions with dud rates below 2.3%, and it is these cluster munitions that are now being supplied to Ukraine. But will these munitions be a game changer for the Ukrainian counteroffensive? Ukraine requested cluster munitions due to their high effectiveness against area targets like infantry, artillery, and vehicle convoys. Their widespread impact has earned them the nickname Steel Rain. The ability of cluster munitions to cover a large area with a single strike makes them more efficient compared to firing multiple unitary projectiles, reducing stockpiles, and limiting exposure to counter-fire during Russian attacks. In fact, past analyses have shown that cluster munitions were 8 times more effective than standard high-explosive projectiles in producing casualties during the Vietnam War and 60 times more effective in peacetime testing against vehicles. While cluster munitions have considerable combat power, they are not universally effective and may not be ideal for point targets like buildings. As the Ukrainian counteroffensive progresses, incorporating such powerful weaponry could aid in sustaining their advance. However, it is essential to recognize that victory will not be solely reliant on any single weapon or munition, as we've mentioned in past videos. The cumulative impact of various resources provided by the US and NATO allies, along with training for Ukrainian troops, and the unwavering determination of the Ukrainian people, will be crucial in achieving victory. But the addition of cluster munitions will undoubtedly enhance Ukraine's military capabilities, particularly in specific target scenarios. What do you think? Let's discuss in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more content.